Freaking out there. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men of power want? More power.
My name is luca-zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a drill. If you're listening to this broadcast, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
We're not afraid.
Here we go, another Sunday, another show. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on K-Talks 1340 AM and also 104.1 FM with luca-zanna. Well, a lot of things have been happening since the last Sunday. I'm very disturbed, I must tell you. Not because things I don't know, but more I see verifications of the things that we know, and that what make me really feel sad, I'm telling you. The topics I would like to talk today is going to be disturbing, like most of the topics I bring here, but sometimes I try to bring you also some little bit happiness and a joy and fun. But don't get me wrong, we will go there. But first I need to talk about something that unfortunately it's happening around the world. This pedophile ring, this international ring of demons, I don't want to call them people. I start to believe they're no humans, seriously. Somebody can do these things to children. They're no humans. It is not just something that we hear here in America with, the scandals and all the different pedophile rings they've been finding out and dismantling the last couple of years. Think about Disneyland and different things, but this is also Epstein, whatever his name, this billionaire. It's just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip. This is the ring. It goes around the world. And I'm telling you, there's been something happening in Italy. I talked and mentioned last week, a little bit. It's been years of abuse. They've been discovered by the Italian social services, the equivalent to CPS, Child Protective Services. Don't get me wrong, not everyone is bad, but they found out that in a part of Italy, there was a real conspiracy to legally kidnap, not even legally, just kidnap children from their parents and brainwash them because they have psychologists. There was a multi-level of criminals working together. We have the social services that in Italy were pretty much the arms, or at least the one that they send out, with the police, of course, because they don't go alone. They are afraid, by the way. They are chicken, really neck individuals. So they go out there with this sort of cover of the law enforcement. Then, of course, not only the Child Protective Service, they were looking for their prey. By the way, the children, Italian judge, just found out and just made it public, more than 35,000 children in the last few years. They were legally, or even not legally, let's say, with this sort of a deception, they were kidnapped by the social services with no reason whatsoever. That says it all. And these children, they were given, of course, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. The first layer, of course, the same CPS, they justify their presence, their salaries. They need to do something. They need to create the drama, number one. Number two, the second level, of course, the biggest monetary gain was by this organization, that they are a private organization, that they work with the state because they collect money from the state for every child they somehow adopt or they get foster care. They get paid a lot of money. And for them, children, they're not about being taken care of innocent children who need help. It's about another head, another bag of silver. Simple as that. So that was disturbing. But the worst part then, it gets even deeper. Not only the destruction that they created with the family, completely removing these children from their parents, but also brainwashing them, altering things. Like, for example, there were drawings where the child was just, drawing himself with a dad or mom, and the social service of the psychologist in this case started to alter the drawing, putting hands and arms around the dad, from the dad around the girl, and say, you see, that's what happened. The dad was trying to, sexually harass you, and it was far from truth. So the point is, not only they alterated the facts, they had no reason to did what they did, but also they brainwashed the children. Really, there are some disturbing audio recording that you can, probably is in Italian, I'm not going to play it, doesn't make sense, but it's so sad to hear these children crying, say, where is dad? And the social service or the psychologist say, your father is dead, is gone, he doesn't love you anymore. Things like that, completely reprogramming the brain of the children. And then the sad thing, beside all that is terrible. I mean, think about feeling you're a father or a mother, and your child is being completely kidnapped from you by the state. That's pretty much what it is, the state. And back to guns. The state can do that because the population is being completely unarmed. Since the beginning of history in Europe, never really changed since the time of the Romans. Slaves, always unarmed. Okay, so that's the story. So, don't get me wrong, sometimes, so much you can do, but I tell you, you come and steal my children. That's the last thing you remember. I'm not going to even try to threaten anybody. This is reality. You try to steal my children without any reason. That means, unless I've done something terrible, but guess what? I still have due process. I still believe in due process. Nobody come and steal my children. Simple as that. I may go down, but guess what? I'm not going to live the rest of my life thinking, what are you doing to my children? I will defend my children. I have the duty to defend my children. Okay? In Italy, unfortunately, you can't defend anything. Can't even defend yourself. So after all, you're just in the hands of the state. The state and criminals have guns. Regular people can't. Pretty much that's the story. So, but this story goes deeper. This is not just about, the big money-making machine of this industry. The point now we know, according to evidence from the Italian prosecution against these criminals, that many of these children, they also were given to couples. They had completely a gay agenda. And then they were also found to be pedophiles. So, and also many of these children, they were used and abused sexually as sex objects. So this is how deep it goes. Now back to Epstein, or whatever is his name, this billionaire that somehow we have now evidence, that we already had evidence before, but corruption and money can change a lot when it comes down to the rule of law. Now hopefully, under this administration, under this, new Attorney General, let's see what's going to happen to justice. And I still hope Hillary Clinton and the Clintons in general, they need to go down. Because this is something that now is way too late, okay? Too long it's been due. Now, what I'm saying here is something that goes deeper, because what happened to this Italian ring of pedophiles, it is something not new from Epstein, but it's not new from something happened a long time ago, not that long time ago. In 2006, we have a very interesting testimonial by a former congresswoman, Cynthia McKinney, that really somehow exposed these pedophile rings, child trafficking rings, under the corporation of Dynacorp. This is directly, and this is all connects with the Pentagon. This all connects with the CIA. This all connects to this somehow international ring that somehow is preying on children, not just for monetary purposes, but also for deeper, more satanic purposes. This really truly believe that. You may not believe it, that's fine. And maybe something else. Talking about rituals, I mean, there is an elite behind of people, maybe whatever they are, I don't know if they're even people, of things that they really feast literally on children. I already talked to you about this, the Cannibal Club in Los Angeles. Please go check it out again. The Cannibal Club in Los Angeles. It's a restaurant that is very proud that serves human flesh. And on their website, they're very proud to remind you that their flesh is fresh and young. So, you can connect the dots if you want. Let me play this, 1 second.
Cynthia McKinney grilled Donald Rumsfeld during the House hearings on the 2006 budget for the U.S. Department of Defense. Let's listen to McKinney as she questions Rumsfeld on the missing trillions and hear Rumsfeld's pathetic response.
I thank the gentleman, the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. McKinney.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, I watched President Bush deliver a moving speech at the United Nations in September 2003, in which he mentioned the crisis of the sex trade. The President called for the punishment of those involved in this horrible business. But at the very moment of that speech, DynCorp was exposed for having been involved in the buying and selling of young women and children. While all of this was going on, DynCorp kept the Pentagon contract to administer the smallpox and anthrax vaccines and is now working on a plague vaccine through the Joint Vaccine Acquisition Program. Mr. Secretary, is it policy of the U.S. government to reward companies that traffic in women and little girls? That's my first question. My second question, Mr. Secretary, according to the Comptroller General of the United States, there are serious financial management problems at the Pentagon, to which Mr. Cooper alluded. Fiscal year 1999, $2.3 trillion missing. Fiscal year 2000, $1.1 trillion missing. And DOD is the number one reason why the government can't balance its checkbook. The Pentagon has claimed year after year that the reason it can't account for the money is because its computers don't communicate with each other. My second question, Mr. Secretary, is who has the contracts today to make those systems communicate with each other? How long have they had those contracts? And how much have the taxpayers paid for them? Finally, Mr. Secretary, after the last hearing, I thought that my office was promised a written response to my question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th. I have not yet received that response, but would like for you to respond to the questions that I've put to you today, and then I do expect the written response to my previous question, hopefully by the end of the week.
Thank you, Representative. First, the answer to your first question is no, absolutely not. The policy of the United States government is clear, unambiguous, and opposed to the activities that you described. The second question.
Well, how do you explain the fact that DynCorp and its successor companies have received and continue to receive government contracts?
I would have to go and find the facts, but there are laws and rules and regulations with respect to government contracts, and there are times that corporations do things they should not do, in which case they tend to be suspended for some period. There are times then that under the laws and the rules and regulations passed by the Congress and implemented by the executive branch, that corporations can get off of out of the penalty box, if you will, and be permitted to engage in contracts with the government. They're not generally not barred in perpetuity.
This company was never in the penalty box. If you could proceed to my second question, please.
The second question. I've forgotten what the second question was.
I think Ms. Jonas knows it.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. McKinney. I appreciate the question. I appreciate your interest in our department's financial condition, and we are working very hard on that program. I've just come back recently.
I understand that you're working hard on it, but my question was, who has the contract? How long have they had that contract, and how much money have we spent on it?
In general, we spend about $20 billion in the Department on information technology systems. The accounting systems are part of that. I can get you the exact number for the record of what we spend on our current, what we call legacy systems, and those that we're moving toward.
And who has the contracts?
That would be a multitude of individuals.
Could you name some, please?
Well, I think off the top of my head, well, I would rather not. I'd rather provide that for the record.
That's not privileged information, is it?
I'm sure it's not.
Well, please. And we still have time, so please.
I would be glad to provide for the record. I don't want to talk from the top of my head and be incorrect.
On your first question, I'm advised by Dr. Chu that it was not the corporation that was engaged in the activities you characterized, but I'm told it was an employee of the corporation, and it was some years ago in the Balkans that took place.
It's my understanding that it continues to take place. And
is that right?
Yes.
Well, if you can give me information to that effect.
I'm sure you are interested in all of the information that I have, and I'll be more than happy to provide it to you.
Good. Thank you.
But I would also like to get information from you.
Okay.
For example, the information that I just requested about who has those contracts.
Let me assure the gentlelady that we'll make sure that this exchange of information takes place. And Mr. Secretary, if you can get back with us on the DynCorp story, we'll get that to the gentlelady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'll get back on both of the first two questions, but the Congresswoman has raised the other question twice now, and I'd like to have General Myers respond because you mentioned it in the last hearing, and I think it would be helpful to get the answer, even though we're on red, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman.
General Myers, go right ahead.
But I would like to have the answer in writing as well, as I thought my office was promised.
Okay, I don't know about the promise, Congresswoman, but could you repeat the question to make sure I'm answering the right question? This is 9/11 question.
The question was, we had 4 war games going on September 11th, and the question that I tried to pose before the Secretary had to go to lunch was whether or not the activities of the 4 war games going on September 11th actually impaired our ability to respond to the attacks.
The answer to the question is no, did not impair our response. In fact, General Eberhart, who was then the commander of North American Aerospace Defense Command, as he testified in front of the 9/11 Commission, I believe he told them that it enhanced our ability to respond, given that NORAD didn't have the overall responsibility for responding to the attacks today. That was an FAA responsibility. But they were 2 CPXs. There was 1 Department of Justice exercise that didn't have anything to do with the other 3. And there was an actual operation ongoing because there was some Russian bomber activity up near Alaska. So
let me ask you this then. Who was in charge of managing those war games?
And General, why don't you give the best answer you can here in a short period of time, and we'll. The gentlelady wants to get a written answer anyway, and then we can move on to other folks.
The important thing to realize is North American Aerospace Defense Command was responsible. These are command post exercises. What that means is all the battle positions that are normally not filled are indeed filled. So it was an easy transition from an exercise into a real-world situation. It actually enhanced the response. Otherwise, it would take somewhere between 30 minutes and a couple of hours to fill those positions, those battle spaces, with the right staff officers.
Mr. Chairman, begging your indulgence, was September 11th declared a National Security Special Event Day?
I'd have to look back. I do not know. You mean after the fact or before the
No, because of the activities going on that had been scheduled at the United Nations that day.
I'd have to go back and check. Don't know.
Thank you.
Okay. I thank the gentlelady. The chair would ask the gentleman from South Carolina to indulge us in that I should have called on Mr. Marshall here in the regular order and missed him, and the gentleman was here. So, is that okay, Mr. Wilson? We'll recognize the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Marshall.
Here we go. You listen. I mean, this stuff is surreal. By the way, Representative Cynthia McKinney, I wasn't a fan of her when it comes down to socioeconomics, other topics, other philosophy. I'm not a supporter of her. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not here talking as a partisan. I'm just talking about the facts. Regardless, this woman had guts. Regardless, when it comes down to these topics of finding out the corruption in the Pentagon, in the Department of Defense, about how they've been stealing. Seriously, this is, talking about you going to jail if you rob an Apple, okay? Everything over $20, they can arrest you. These people, they've been, let's put it this way, misappropriating trillions of dollars. Nobody knows where they are. Trillions are gone. No answer was given. And meanwhile, we're talking about trillions. You heard her. You heard also the answer. They have no idea. They don't need to tell you any answer, seriously. And then, of course, this insinuation, there are no insinuation. Dinakor, it was found guilty in trafficking children and women, young women. So the point is, she's gone, of course. She's no more a congresswoman. But the point is, what are we going to do? I mean, somebody just pointed out, risking her life, that we have our tax dollar being robbed by private corporations or people that are supposed to represent us. and defend us. And so what? Nothing happened since then. The point is still, this sort of a corruption is so like a cancer, so deep, that we need to find a way. We need to find a way to somehow take this country back. Now, it's all connected. You see, 9/11, she was putting a very good pressure on 9/11. You may believe whatever you want, but I'm sorry, if you still believe the fairy tale that 19 people with the turban and one man in the cave from Afghanistan was able to knock down planes, give me a break. Give me a break. I mean, all you have to do watch Building 7. Watch Building 7. Nothing hit the building and fell down, and nobody wants to talk about that. There is so much evidence. I've been talking about this for years. I'm tired, seriously. It's almost an insult to intelligence. I mean, my cat understands that 9/11 was based on the biggest deception. Biggest deception. All you have to look at facts. Go back, watch the videos. Don't listen to the propaganda. There's so much information there. The point is, it is just amazing. So let me take a little break. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM, and we'll continue. This show is not going to be about entertaining you. It's not going to be about make you feel, warm and fuzzy. It's about probably freak you out a little bit, because what we are facing right now, it is beyond, unfortunately, comprehension. Sometimes it would be almost easier just to say, forget about it, but you know what? The train, it's a loaded train, it's a big freight, it's coming towards us. And you may like it or not, it's still going to hit you if you don't move. So we better prepare to unite and to fight it back. Don't go away.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
Saying that defense is to be made an excuse for wasting dollars. I don't believe we should pay 1 cent for defense more than we have to.
I seriously question an increase in the Pentagon budget in the face of the department's recent Inspector General's report. How can we seriously consider a $50 billion increase in the defense budget when DOD's own auditors say the department cannot account for $2.3 trillion in transactions in 1 year alone?
It is
Rumsfeld.
I was going to say terrifying. It is such a monumental task. I have met with 2 former officials of the Pentagon who served in the budget and controller.
There was the day before 9/11. The day before 9/11, Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense,
what they thought.
was asked, where are these $2.3 trillion missing?
A month. 10 million times to get things screwed up. I've had my pay screwed up 6 times since I've been in the department. And it's really bad when you screw up your boss's pay.
I doubt, to be honest, that people inside the department are going to be capable of sorting this out. I have a feeling it's going to take some folks from outside to come in and look at this and put in place a process that over a period, and I regret to say, but I've seen how long things take. I think it's going to take a period of years to sort it out. I think it'll probably take the cooperation of the Congress to try to get the system so that you can actually manage the financial aspects of that institution rather than simply report on things that have happened imperfectly.
There's more oversight over the Head Start program than there is over the entire military budget.
It's a terrible record, and it's preposterous that the Defense Department doesn't know what's happened to this money.
This situation's a disgrace. It tells me that we can't meet our constitutional obligations to the taxpayers of our country to make sure that things are honestly and legally spent.
We were told major cuts in education programs, and then we read, well, you know, $500 million is paid per year that isn't owed.
It is an incredible thing that we arm the world and then turn around and come to Congress and say, look at all these weapons out there. They're almost superior to ours. They're comparable to ours. Well, of course they are. They're ours. We sold them to them.
Since the end of the Cold War, we've sold more military weapons than the rest of the world combined.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
My name is Jack Shanahan, Vice Admiral, U.S. Navy, retired. One of our nuclear bombs blows up Hiroshima 15 times over. 5 devastates Russia. After that, this is how many the U.S. has left. I feel safe reducing nuclear weapons. Do you?
Well, you know, this is not a partisan topic. As I said, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat. This is about if you're okay with a government branch, or not even branch, this is technically is an agency. The branch, you know, we have under the presidency here. To completely say, screw you, American taxpayers, we lost, or we don't know where they are, $2.3 trillion. And so what? And so what? Try to say that to the IRS when they do an audit. I forgot $10,000. Oh, I don't find $1,000. They will come and they will get you. They will find a way. But you, of course, as a slave, as a serf, that's it. But anybody else in government is pretty much living by different standards. So this is so serious because it's all connects, by the way, to these child trafficking sex rings. How? Well, if you read a little bit more information about this case, about Epstein, seems like, and I say seems like because it still needs to be proven on trial, that there is a connection with him and the Department of State the Department of the Government under Hillary Clinton, and more important, also through the CIA. That means it could have been really well used to bring politicians to these islands and create a blackmail. If you think about it, how do you control the votes? How do you control the Congress? How do you control influential people? Through blackmail. Bring them to your island, you think is a safe place. Guess what? Now you're going to put them in video with maybe children or with maybe underage women. Who knows? Maybe things that they are so horrible that we cannot even talk. They are beyond things that we know. I mean, this is not just about a terrible sex act with a minor. There are things that we have proven, torture, rituals, something that is so brutal that it's hard to understand. So you never know really what happened, but we know that there is a connection between Mr. Epstein and directly with the Clinton. More important, the Department of the state, and it could be possible that it was used by part of the government to blackmail some politicians, to control them, and to somehow fulfill the agenda. And that's very much truth. I'm telling you, this is something unfortunate that it's happening more and more. So let's have an open mind, because I hope now the American people will not let go. This situation with this trial with Epstein is so powerful that we need to pursue it. We cannot let it go. And I think, unfortunately, other things may happen. Because when you start to bring all these names involved, I mean, don't forget the former President Bill Clinton, he was logged on this flight about 26, 27 times, this Lolita Flight Express, whatever it's called, think about it. Then you have other names coming out, and Mr. Epstein is not being given any type of bail, because at this point we know that is a flight risk. So he may start to talk. He may start to bring names out. Now remember, when the real people behind that they don't want to be exposed, they cannot somehow stop this prosecution. If it's truly, it's not going to get stopped, and I hope so. I hope really this time, maybe we still have some decent people in our in our offices. And I mean, the Department of Justice, cannot be all bad. Okay, I hope. So at that point, strange things may start happening. Think about it. Terroristic acts or false flags has been a reality. 9/11 was a perfect example. Let's not forget, other things may happen in the same time when there is a focus on some very important issues. So I wouldn't be surprised now that we are going through this trial, maybe strange and catastrophic events may happen in America. That's something to think about. So it's all connected, unfortunately. The military-industrial complex, this swamp, as Trump calls it, and of course the child pedophile rings, and the fact that there is no more justice. We are really at this point living under two different rules or systems. It is not an accident. So we're going to have documents coming out. We're going to have evidence. But I don't tell you, I'm not completely optimistic. I don't know. Everything can be possible. I hope we have justice, but we will see. One thing that I want to remind you, though, that especially for people now that they are kind of thinking that socialism or democratic socialism is the answer. This is another way the elite is controlling you. The elite has been creating communism since the beginning. Communism has been always a weapon of the elite to control the rest of us. If you think about it, Karl Marx, it wasn't just, out of the blue started write the Communist Manifesto by himself. He was was funded by New York bankers and also bankers from London. They wanted to create this new class, to create also some sort of a way that the state can control the competition. Because what communism really is, that there is no more the opportunity for the average person to succeed, to fulfill his potential. But only the elite will have a chance to do whatever they want. The rest is going to be all enslaved. I mean, look in Russia, the Politburo. I mean, they are very wealthy people. It's an elite. The people that they are top in the hierarchy of the Russian government, they are living like wow. But the average Russian man or woman is, begging for food, or at least they live in very difficult conditions. Something that's exactly the reality of communism. Same story in Venezuela. Look, the king of Venezuela, whatever king is, whatever the president they want to call him, he always lives a high life, So his soldiers, generals, especially the high ranks generals. But the rest of the population is starving. The same story in China and everywhere around the world. Now, I want to, remind especially the young people here that they're being brainwashed that democratic socialism somehow it's better. There is no difference between communism, socialism, and democratic socialism. For example, in communism, you have the commissars that take your stuff and give it to the other people. If you resist, the government will arrest you and kill you, of course. Not just arrest you. If you resist, they will shoot you. By the way, they shoot you even later. Let's not forget. I'm going to read you a story today. It's devastating. Then socialism, the bureaucrats, in this case, they will take your stuff, government will take your stuff and give it to other people. Same result. But if you resist, the government will arrest you and shoot you. Simple as that. Now the new, or democratic socialism, like these, idiots from the Alessandra Cortes followers pretty much go out and think they are. 51% of the voters, in this case, it doesn't take much to brainwash 51%, take your stuff, like in the communism, like in the socialism, and they will give it to other people. Simple as that. If you resist, the government will arrest you and shoot you. Same story. So this is exactly the same model. It is just dressed up a little better. Now, I want to talk about something that the story it belongs to reality of what communism really has been, as a travesty, as a cancer for free humanity. And I want to warn you, though. I'm going to read this information. You don't have to listen. Some of this stuff may be really seriously disturbing. I want to give you the chance to listen, though, because this information is real. Unfortunately, they don't teach it at school, but we need to know. We need to know because things are repeating in history, and if we don't stop them, they will repeat again. We need to know because also if we do not prepare ourselves to educate our next generation, we will face exactly the same. So, stay with me, don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with luca-zanna.
It is time. Get your Arizona Concealed Carry Permit now with Arizona Concealed Carry Permit by Zanna Enterprises, LLC. Become a more responsible and educated gun owner. Carry legally concealed in 35 states. Carry permitted in restaurants where alcohol is served. Learn where and how you can legally carry a firearm in Arizona. Learn where you can use deadly force. When can you display your gun or not for self-defense? Learn how to deal with law enforcement while carrying a firearm. Learn how to be aware of your surroundings and how to avoid a confrontation. Buy your gun without waiting for a background check. Get your Arizona Concealed Carry Permit now. Go to www.azccw.us. Go to www.azccw.us. Free for single mothers and people with disabilities.
And we are back into the show. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with luca-zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and also 104.1 FM. Today we've been talking about pedophile rings, this disgusting ring of individuals that have been preying on children all over the world. We have Epstein case in the U.S. We have, of course, the situation in Italy. I talked to you before, and this is happening in England, everywhere. There is something that is really completely deeper than we can imagine. Now, we talk also about other factors, like people, courageous people try to expose this. Among those, of course, this former representative, Congresswoman, Representative Cynthia McKinney. And now, of course, all this connects to whom? The forces behind. Why they also use the children. The children, they are used because not only for their, economic gains, is like a trade, but also because at the end of the day, they can control. They can control people, of course, but they control also your soul. Think about it. This is about beyond just the physical aspect. It's also the way I truly believe, according to their records, according to what these people they've been found be doing, they have rituals that they need innocent lives. And we talked already last week about what happened at the Bohemian Grove, this mocking of this human sacrifice of a child. And that pretty much says it all. Now, we also connect all this to the Pentagon and, of course, the idea that the military-industrial complex that is being exposed, not just today, since the time of Eisenhower. General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower has been talking about it. So, it's keep going. Trillions of dollars missing. This is not an accident. That's how they can control people in Congress to also stop investigations. It's all connected, my friends. Like 9/11 is connected. Like maybe the next situation is going to happen, the next 9/11 may happen anytime, is connected when somehow somebody, maybe with a really good intention, will try to get too close to the truth. We are getting there. But there is also another aspect I was talking. It's about communism, about socialism, about the democratic socialism. They also told you they're all the same. At the end, they all work for the same type of mentality. The mentality of the individual, it's zero. It doesn't exist. There is no individual right. There are no individual rights. So, that's the same concept. And everything is based on coercion, on force. After all, if you don't like on this redistribution of wealth, guess what? Not only we make fun of you, but also we send you the SWAT team and we kill you. Like happened during the Bolshevik Revolution. Let me put it this way. There's a nice article. This is from the Wall Street Journal. And normally, it's a kind of a compromise newspaper. A lot of forces behind. But hey, once in a while you get an article good too. 100 years of communism and 100 million dead. Technically, they would say more than that. Because if you count just the China's, under Mao Zedong, there more than 60 million died, they were murdered. So, but from the beginning, from the armored Bolshevik Revolution to all the way, of course, to the different, Cambodia, and of course we have Myanmar, and then we have, around the world, Russians and of course Chinese. I mean, think about Cuba, how many people die in Cuba. I mean, the communism has been one of the biggest instrument of mass murdering. More than Nazism. Modern Nazism. By the way, the philosophy is pretty much the same. I mean, if you think about it, people say, Nazis are different from communists. It's the same philosophy. We have always the same concept. We have the state, we have an elite within the state, and then they have the masses. And everything works in function of the state. That's simple as that. You have no right, you have no properties. If you have property, it's going to be working in connection with the state. Simple as that. Like in China, for example. Private industry, they always somehow now incorporate it with the state. Now, so the Bolshevik Revolution and all these terrible things happened, by the way, in Russia in 1917 and all this history of the beginning of the Bolshevik Revolution. It wasn't by an accident. It wasn't just because, oh my gosh, the Russians revolted against the Tsar. No, the Russian Bolshevik Revolution was funded by international bankers. They would never made it if bankers from New York and England would have supported it with trains full of gold. That's a fact. You can figure it out. But now the point is, I want to remind something that is even more, sometimes we look at a big part of history, but we forget about how individuals within history, they can make a difference in the good and the bad. In this case, in the bad. His name is Vasily Blokhin. It's the history's most prolific executioner. This is a Russian former soldier, was an officer, by the way, and by hand, with his own handgun, he was proud to execute prisoners of war or any type of political prisoners in something that is hard to believe. He killed more by his own hand. He could have delegated other people, but he liked to do the job by his hand, because this guy is a psycho, like many psycho, gravitate towards this type of jobs. More than 7,000 Polish prisoners of war during the Katyn massacre in the spring of 1940, making him the most prolific official executioner in recorded world history. Okay? Think about it. 7,000 times he had to pull that trigger behind the neck of this poor victim, and probably with blood splattering all over his body, because, he was professional. By the way, you can see this article, there's a nice description, and by the way, it's devastating what I'm reading here, but I need to bring you this information, because this is exactly what happens when the state take over, when we have ideology like communism taking over, okay? So, he was dressed like with this sort of a leather apron, like a butcher, and he had a special team of 2 people holding the prisoner by the hands. He was really, they created a system that was very efficient. He was able to murder every 3 minutes 1 prisoner. Think about 1 prisoner every 3 minutes, and he was working for 10 hours in a row at night. I tell you, I don't know how even people working into the slaughterhouse, killing cows, how can they cope with the rest of their life? I mean, I couldn't have done that job. I mean, one thing you kill because you need to survive one time, but to killing like that become like almost like an obsession, like almost it's almost like a trigger that you need to have. I mean, you might be really a poor soul to do that. But this person, if you want to call him a person, he was able to kill 7,000 out of his own hand in just one period of time. So the point is, you see the story. Why I wanted to bring this up? I want you, first of all, we need to read history. When people try to, let's say, idealize communism or idealize any type of ideology that is based on coercion, that's why we need to bring facts. That's why we need to bring history that communism has murdered millions of innocent people. Because the idea is communism, if you don't agree with communism, you need to be eliminated. That's what it's trying to do here. Look, Antifa is just the first level of this sort of revolution. Now they don't have enough power, but if they have enough power, they would come and smash your face, take your property, and call you racist, just because they can. So the point is, this Vasily Blokhin, hopefully I pronounced him right, and may his soul rest in hell, he was just one of the many people who embraced the ideology, and he was serving his master. In this case, he was under Stalin, And that's the point. Think how many people we have today, like him, in position of power, that they could do the same, continue following the same orders when the time comes. That's what really we need to be prepared. Because I tell you, this guy was an exception. There are many other people in different governments, in different parts of the world, that are ready to follow, and they've already been following these orders. So that's my point. That's why I really truly believe, what this show is called Love, Guns, and Freedom. Because if you really truly want to be free, you must, first of all, be a loving person. You must love life. You must love yourself and love others. And you want to try to defend life. You want to be sure that things like that never happen. And then when it comes down to freedom, of course, what is the next word next to freedom? Guns. I'm sorry, if people like in Russia, like during the Bolshevik Revolution, the average citizen was able to somehow detain the weapons, have a right to keep them by arms, maybe they had a chance. The problem is that every time any organization or power takes over, they want their weapons. They want your weapons. So it was a struggle for freedom, struggle for the weapons. Of course, there was a lot of interest, foreign interest and funding for this Bolshevik revolution. Communism is being funded by the international bankers. That's a fact. You can check it out. But we, as Americans, we must not forget that we are very close now to something that we never seen really happen here yet, but it's happening. All these people now that they're running for office or they're already in office, like Alessandra Cortez, completely declared Marxist. But that's what she is, like in Obama. These people that they completely want the state to become the master, and if you oppose the state, they will suppress you. It's all about when they have enough power. So we must, first of all, educate ourselves. The biggest weapon, I always said, is your brain. Knowledge, sharing the knowledge, learning the facts. Don't keep it for yourself. But also it's very important that we start to really go into preparation mode. We need to prepare to defend ourselves as individuals, with our mindset, with our body, and with firearms. In the state of Arizona is a right. In many other states, it's still a right. America is supposed to be a right. But, if you are living in California, it's not a right. It is merely a privilege right now. Same in New York or New Jersey. So I'm sorry for you guys that you're there. All I can say, my fellow brothers and sisters around the United States of America, in places like I just mentioned, maybe it's time to realize that if you cannot win the battle, it's better regroup and fight together to win the war. Okay? Join us in Arizona, join us in other great states that they still somehow allow you to be a free human being when it comes down at least to this right, okay? And the state's supposed not to allow anything, by the way. This is your right. You're supposed to exercise that right. All right, so that's the story. It's been a disturbing show, I'm telling you. I am very disturbed about the information I share with you. This pedophile ring really bugs me. This is something that it's happening closer and closer to us. In the state of Arizona, we have a lot of incredible, very devastating information about abuse of the child protective services. They are like really a gang. They are a gang, like a gang of coyotes preying on children. And that's very scary. Same story, around the world. I know there are people around the world that, unfortunately, sometimes they realize that they feel alone. But you're not alone. I have ladies and friends from around the world that I know through Facebook, and I say, listen, we're all facing the same realities. We're all facing the same type of challenges. One thing, though, we must understand that even if we live far away from each other, I truly believe that we're here, we can help each other, just inspiring each other. Sometimes just to see the way we can stand up, the way we can take responsibility, the way we can say no. And maybe find other like-minded people, maybe just around us. That's all we can do right now. And I understand. Honestly, I am glad. I'm very grateful that I live in the state of Arizona. Even with all its own problems. Trust me, we have our own problems here. We have our own corruption here. We have our own situation that, like this child protective services, they are as bad as they are in Europe. But guess what? I remind you one thing we still have here. We have the right to keep and bear arms. You may be not something for a few of you, but guess what? It's a lot for me. It's a lot for many people like me. And that's how government will kept at bay. Because government can go out of control only when they think they have all the guns. Simple as that. You can't do that to an armed population. You cannot be completely in the open and be an oppressor. You're going to have consequences. That's a fact. This is not a threat. This is just a fact. So I'm saying, as much as we have problems here, there's no other place I would like to be. Now, a little bit of a break, and then we finish up with something a little bit more lighter. I had enough of bad news, okay? You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Do not go away. Stay with me. A few more minutes.
Are you ready to get lost in lust? Immerse yourself in a thunderstorm of emotions and passion. Order John luca-zanna's new book, Perfectly Crazy, 69 erotic visions and love poems with forbidden erotic Italian phrases. Perfectly Crazy by John luca-zanna. Available all over the world at Amazon.com and www.zanna.us.
Here we go, final segment. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and also 104.1 FM. Don't forget, you can listen to all the rebroadcasts of the show on www.lovegunsfreedom.com. All right. I tell you, shows like that really brings me to some sort of anxiety a little bit. When I realize what type of evil we are facing, it's so deep. It's hard to just think about normal things. But I have to detach, otherwise I'll lose my mind, seriously. I'd like to talk a little bit about, first of all, interesting things that empower you, things that can give you some little bit of control. For example, if you are in the state of Arizona, especially in Mojave County, I invite you to come to my personal Arizona concealed carry permit classes. Especially if you're a lady, this is something that can be really empowering for you. To own a gun, it's great, but to be responsible with a firearm, to know exactly when to use it, and also to learn how to use it, is something that is a must. With freedom comes responsibility. You can't just have a gun and say whatever. The gun, by the way, is not the weapon. You are the weapon. I want to make you understand that no matter what gun you have, if you don't have your combat mindset, if you don't have your awareness, if you don't have your dedication, that's going to means nothing. And also, you must have your training. Sorry, but that's the truth. You know, I can get you a beautiful guitar. Doesn't mean that you're going to become Jimi Hendrix. So, same story with a gun. Our concealed carry permit classes, they are more than 5 hours long. Of course, there is no time there to teach you marksmanship. This is not something, even the requirement of the state. But what we offer is the opportunity to, first of all, to know everything you need to know about how and where to carry a gun, to know the basic and more beyond the basic federal and state laws, and also start to understand how to carry the gun, the different systems, the different guns, the different calibers, and then more important, what you need to look for the next level of your journey when it comes down to training. Because if you don't understand yet that, if you don't know yet how to shoot in a realistic situation, you must learn. Okay? So we give you everything we can. So much that we offer you, if you're a single mother, it means no boyfriend or husband, and you have children, we offer you a limited space we have for free seats, for a free class for this Arizona concealed carry permit. We offer all this at Kingman Force on Force. You can find us at kingmanforceonforce.com and shoot us an email. We hope we can help you. For all the people, we still offer great deals, great opportunities, great discounts, and a lot of great services. So don't forget that. Now, beside that, what I would like to say, in our human interactions with people, we meet a lot of people. Sometimes we have a lot of expectations. Sometimes we have disappointments. It's part of life, I tell you. It's part of life. We are human beings. But I tell you, if you meet someone who can make your life, flow a little easier, it makes you laugh a lot, you know what? You should keep him. Sometimes that's really all you need. I didn't write that. I just paraphrasing it from Jay Shetty, I guess, or Shetty. I hope I didn't say something bad. Anyway, it's an important point. Sometimes we look in people crazy things, impossible things. But if it comes down to the point that if you find a special person that really can make your life go smooth, going without every time disappointment, without always this sort of antagonism, just being happy, feeling happy to be together. Just hug you hug me, and you know what? Not everything must become a confrontation. If you can find that person and makes you laugh, give you some joy, sometimes you misunderstand, or maybe just underestimate what you have there. And I hope you can find that person. I hope everybody can find that person. That's all I can say. All right, that was enough for today. You've been listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. I want to remind you, if you want to support the show, I really appreciate your help. Go to www.zanna.us. You can find all the links of, for example, my ebooks, like, for example, Perfectly Crazy, or my other ebook, Poems and Lyrics, or Lyrics and Poems on Amazon. And then, of course, you can find all my songs, more than 100 songs I wrote and published. And I appreciate it, seriously. And that's the way you can support the show. We want to keep the show free. Don't forget also to support K-Talks, because it's a really independent radio station. I mean, I tell you, what information we can broadcast from this station, I have no really clue if it's possible to broadcast anywhere else. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great stations out there, but sometimes, that's the way it is. Okay, God's willing, I'll talk to you next Sunday. Ciao.
Wake up. Envision your decision. 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 Engage. Resist.